Good morning. This is Rabbi Shlomo Furst here, Yeshiva Tsama Nafshi in Yerushalayim Kodesh, located not too far from the central bus station, so we're centrally located to, easily walking from there, taking a bus, driving if you have a car. Many of us come from outlying areas of Yerushalayim and here in Eretz Israel, and even we have guests from Chutz La'aretz, so we're happy to have everyone in all's participation in our shiur. We're learning Pirkei Avos now, the first shiur in the morning. And we can continue now with what we learned in Avos based on Shimon Tzaddik, and we're going to make a comparison with what was said at the end of the parak with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel's statement. We'll make a little bit of a comparison. We're going to be doing some more learning about that in good time, Mitzvah Shem, but we'll start with that right now, Mitzvah Shem. Let's read about the second, which is Chazar over the Mishnah. Shimon Tzaddik, Hayom Nishari.
Shimon Tzaddik היה משעמם Shimon Tzaddik was the leftovers, the end remnants of the Knesset Gedara. Hayom used to say Ashoshet Rimalamed. He used to say that for three things the world stands: Ala Torah, Avoda, Miluchas. On Torah, Avoda, and Milut Chasadim.
Okay, so the world stands upon these three things, right? Torah, and as the Rav Bartanora said, and as the Rabbeinu Yonah and other Meforshim say, that it was b'shvil these three things that the world was created. Yeah, in order that these things could have an existence, a place to exist. Meaning there is Torah, and you have to have a world that the Torah is learned and fulfilled. Avoda, you have to have a place, just like you have to have a place where the avoda is actually done in the base of Mikdash. You have to have a physical place, a physical world. And Gimel Society, in the realm of spiritual existence, there's no such thing as Gimel Society, right? There's no such thing as avoda. And Torah, in terms of kiyum and mitzvahs, also these things don't exist in spiritual, at least the way we understand it, pashtus. These things don't exist in spiritual realms. You need a physical realm for all these things to exist. So the world's creation was in order that these three things could exist in the physical world. Right? And now I want to compare what was said at the last mimer in the parak. You go back a couple of pages. You'll see what it says here. That's on page
Kuf Member.
Oh, that's in the back with the Rav. Okay, very good.
I'm sorry, you want the other one?
No, it's okay. We're going to do both. So we can start with Rav with the Mervin. Sure.
Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon says, Ashoshet Rem Halamed. This world stands on three things: on truth, on din, justice, v'hashom, on shalom. It says Chaya, Emet u'mishpat shalom tiftu b'sharechem. Truth and judgment, peace. You should judge in your gates.
Right. So you have these three things. Some have the gears. In your gears, it's al shlosh devorim, olin,
Olam Omed.
Oimed, right? Okay, so that's Oimed. That's if that's Oimed, so then you have a real question in terms of what's the difference between Shimon Tzaddik and Shimon ben Gamliel, because they're saying the same thing. Are there three things that the world stands on, or six things that the world stands on?
Probably going to find that one is together with the other. They're both comparable. We're going to probably find that one is there. Where you have here Emet, you have there Torah. You have here Din, you have Avoda, and Milut Chasadim is chesed for both anyway. So probably there'll be some kind of a commentary to say that they're going to they match up somehow.
Yeah. By
having one, you have the other.
Right. They certainly match up, and there are those commentaries that do make an effort to make a match between
here and here.
Right.
Too.
So.
This one just there, and we're comparing it to the first one.
So, so again, but let's put it this way. If you're an engineer, right? You're an engineer, and if you're designing if you're an architect or an engineer, you're designing a platform, right? So it makes a big difference if you're making with six pillars or with 3 pillars, right? And so if you get the 2 partners, you build 2 partners that want to build a building. So they hire you, you're an architect, engineering kind of. So one partner says, you know, I want these 3 pillars, and the other partner says, I want these 3 pillars, right? So now what are you going to do? You're going to make 6 pillars, or 3, and combine them somehow.
Maybe one pillar be a little longer than the other one. Maybe the tide is stronger than Amos. Maybe the pillar this one is so we don't even do with the pillars.
So let's try and work with the original assumption that they really are more or less the same thing, but maybe it's just a different aspect. So again, we have the first statement of Shimon HaTzadik that al Torah avoda v'gilim u'sasadim. Okay, now Torah avoda v'gilim u'sasadim, those are things that we do. Those are things that we do. We learn Torah, we fulfill Torah, we do the avodah korbanos in the Beis Hamikdash, or we pray if it's tefillah in our time, right? We do gimilas chasadim. Those are human acts, right? Human acts, right? So we could say Rosh Shimon HaTzadik is emphasizing that what are the 3 human activities that the world was created for? These 3 human activities, Hashem created the world, so there should be human activity in Torah, avodah gimilas chasadim, right? When you look at the statement of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, al shloshet devarim ha'olam oimed, al adin, v'al emes, v'al shalom. Now, would you classify these as human activities?
More spiritual.
They're a little bit more, as you said, more spiritual. Not exactly. You don't say. I mean, we speak emes, we think emes, we write emes, we do things emesly. We strive to have shalom. Right, we strive to have the din, judgment, justice. Right, din is justice, emes is truth, and shalom is peace or perfection. So, but these are more ethereal, more spiritual type of concepts. They're not actual human activities. You don't say first, because not everyone's din. Right, not everyone's is a judge that's going to be deciding court cases, right? Emes. So emes is something which relates to everybody. Everyone should try and be truthful. Shalom, everyone should strive to have shalom, if it's what you call it, have shalom. Having shalom, right? Having shalom is something like, it's not an activity. It's having shalom. It's like. It's a situation. It's a matzav, right? Emes could also be concerned like it's a matzav of truth.
Well, I would say that spiritual because it comes from the Navi. The Navi was more giving the words of Hashem, so meaning that it coming from Hashem telling us what to do, as opposed to Shimon HaTzadik was telling us how to live the world.
Mm-hmm.
So
You said emet and Torah is the Torah emet. No? It's the same thing, isn't it? Torah emet.
So okay, so again, so if they match, it would be nice that they matched correspondingly. So you have Torah voted Gemil Chasadi, right? So din would correspond to Torah, right? Emes would correspond to Avoda, and Shalom would correspond to Gimel Chasadi. So in a certain way, that does match up a bit. Shalom is Gimel Chasadi, right? Din, that could be Torah. Din Torah. And Emes, how that fits into to prayer and korbanos, it could be that we know that the yesod, the foundation of prayer, is that you have to have the heart, and the peh, the mouth, have to be shaman, have to be equal. Meaning, when you're praying, you have to have the truthful thoughts of the heart should be enunciated by the mouth, not to speak one way and to think another thing, right? So that could very well correspond with prayer. And avoda. How does avoda in terms of the base of Mikdash? How would that correspond to emes? So it's a little bit more difficult to try and explain. What does the basic English have to do with emes?
אמת זה חתימה של הקדוש ברוך הוא.
That's right, and they all the word.
והוא נמצא, השכינה שם.
Shechina, it could be the Shechina. Yeah, the Shechina, the Makom where the Shechina is, that's the place where, as you said, the Chasim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's what the person, what does it mean, the Chasim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is emes? Meaning when a person signs, what he signs, his signature, that's his somewhat an abstract expression of himself. Right, so it's difficult to speak about HaKadosh Baruch Hu in these ways, but in the same way, it's a somewhat of a concrete expression of HaKadosh Baruch Hu to a certain. It's like the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is being there. The Shekhinah is being there, so that fits in pretty nice. Okay, that's all. If you're going to be having the Girsa Oimid, in which case it's going to be more or less the same.
Wait, there's no negation?
Yeah, and you don't have it in your edition, but there's another Girsa. Kayim.
Okay.
Right? Kayim. That's in many editions. You have that in many Kayim.
Kayam, then you know it's coming from God.
Yeah, meaning with these three things, the world has existence, right? It has continuity, has continued existence. So, yeah, if you have the Rabbeinu Yonah, take Rabbeinu Yonah is probably at the beginning. You go back to the beginning of the Sefer. We have there, this is the end of the first parak.
Yeah.
So,
Rabbi Yonah says Kayam.
Here it says Kayam.
right, so you see Rabbeinu Yonah had the Girs and others, many of the differences. It's clearly two different texts, two different formats of the
Kayam Omed, it's also connected somehow. Kayam Omed.
Yeah, it's sort of, well, like...
Sounds the same.
Yeah, but establishment is probably more spiritual than
Spiritual?
Omed standing.
Kayam is more spiritual?
I would think so. It's like kind of it's standing. It's there. It's like built more. From God's hands as opposed to Omed.
Kaim is like it has chiyus, it has life,
That's
it has continuity, it has
right.
continuation.
Right.
Right.
And Omed is just a standing thing.
It's static, yes.
That's right.
It's static. It's there. It's like this table is oiming, right? What's Mekayim this table? So that's something that's coming.
Right.
Right. So that's that you see there. Take a look. You can read. Let's read the Rabbeinu Yonah's parish. We'll just try and get a picture of what's going on here.
רבי גם מיום השלושה דברים העולם קיים על הדין שידון דין אמת לאמיתו. You should judge the truth from the judgment.
Yeah.
ועל אמת שיש לאדם ללכת בדרכי השם יתעלה. He has to go in the ways of Hashem. His holy. שהוא אמת, that is truth. בתורתו אמת, his Torah is אמת. הוא הולך בדרכי אמת, he goes in the ways of truth. גם כן האדם ילך באותו דרך. Also a man should go in the same way. שאמר והלכת בדרכיו, you should go in his ways. ואמרו רבותינו זיכרונו לברכה, שאפילו בסיפור דברים בעלמא אין לו לאדם לשקר. That the rabbis have said that even when he's telling over a story, a general story, he should not lie. Kahahu uvda divrei derav.
Okay, that's the braid the route. Okay, that's a special.
Notice there's a difference here.
Excuse me.
In the order.
Yeah.
Over here in the it was Rabbeinu Yonah.
Yep.
It says al din al emet al shlam, and here in the Rabbi Bartanor it says al emet ve'din v'shalom. Switching the order here. I don't know if it means anything though.
Well, if you look at the pasuk says emes shenemar emes umishpat shalom shavtu b'shareichem. So emes comes first, right?
Yeah.
Mishpat would be din, and then shalom comes afterwards. So if it's really, if you want to let it be corresponding to the pasuk, emes should come first, then din, and then shalom. So that could be why there might be a different, also a different gears in that as well. You see the Rabbeinu Yonah is starting out, he's starting explaining din, and then he explains emes, and finally I guess he'll get to shalom. Right, so I guess Rabbeinu Yonah had the gears that we have up top. right? But these things come in. Sometimes they had different texts, and again, it was Balpeh for many years, and then sometimes they had it written down in the way they understood it, the way it was taught to them, and sometimes it was taught in a different order. Sometimes. But we see from Rabbi Yonah right now, up till this point, we see he's explaining these things as being human activities, right? That when a person is judging, right, it should be emes lamito din, it should be emes lamito, the truth ujin, and emes, when a person speaks, he should speak truthfully, even when he's just speaking in general, right? Common conversations, he should even be very careful not to speak sheker. I mean, this concept of not speaking sheker is it goes very deep, because when you interject sheker into a conversation or into a relationship, it creates like a they say water's a ganav. Why is water a ganav? Because you have a little hole, right? The water's going to find whatever holes it can to get in. If you see a leak, there's a hole somewhere around. It might not be anywhere where the water's coming out. It might be all the way down, and it shrivels down because the water's going to get in any way it can. And the more you let that leak remain, the bigger the hole's going to get. Right? So the sheker's the same way. When a person says a sheker, even in a common conversation, it doesn't mean anything. And he's like setting a precedent that whatever tuma is created by the sheker, which is a powerful tuma, so that just gets bigger and bigger as time goes on, and he's going to have to do corrective measures to cover up, to protect himself and protect the relationship or whatever's being discussed. And you never know what can come out of a sheker. And in contrast, if you speak the truth, right? Even if it's difficult to speak the truth, but if you're successful in speaking the truth, then you have no. Whatever's going to happen, you don't have to worry about it. It's going to be it's matzah the truth, and whatever's going to happen out of it, whatever consequences are going to be truthful consequences. It's going to be beneficial. Maybe sometimes we don't realize it. I remember hearing from a story from Yisrael Talbot. He said he was. I guess he was in the States at one point giving shiurim. So he was giving. Yeah, so he said he was giving a shiur on Avos das. So you're not supposed to trick people, especially in business. You're not supposed to fool people, right? Even when it comes to non-Jews, right? You're not supposed to trick them either, right? So some fellow, a businessman, was coming to the shiur, and he was a Al-Tshuva type of a person, and he just came to the shiur, and he had heard this, you're not supposed to trick anybody and this and that. So he was in the middle of a big real estate sale. He was selling a big building in Manhattan. Who knows how many tens of stories up, maybe a lot of money involved, and they were getting close to the end of the deal. And he got an engineer's report that they discovered some faults in the sub-basement. I've mentioned this once or twice already. That these were cracks in the foundation, in the sub-foundation, which could lead, under certain circumstances, to flooding in the sub-basement, and that could put the whole building in jeopardy, and they could condemn the whole building, until they reinforce it or fix it with a tremendous amount of costs involved. So he said he didn't know what to do. Like, they're getting close to the end of this deal. He didn't know about this previously. What is he supposed to do? Right, so he came to the tower and he said, "Look, I was in Yeshiva the other day. I'm not supposed to fool anybody. Look, if I don't mention this to anybody, they're not going to find out about it for a good long time. Whatever it's going to be, I can get the money, and it's going to be no problem." He says, "Look, the halacha is like if there's a fault that the buyer would be makbid on, that he would care about this, for knowing about this, you're obligated to tell him. You can't just sell something as being good merchandise if you know there's a fault in the merchandise. If it's something he's not necessarily going to care about, if you can understand that from your own logic, that he doesn't necessarily care about it, or it's something that he can see, right, on his own, then you're not obligated to tell him. But I know, again, I'm not, in terms of story, I don't know why they would have gone into such a deal themselves, the other party, without having done any engineering. Maybe they did, but then they didn't show up, and then they, in the process of the day, this was discovered. So the idea was maybe it's an oversight, whatever. So anyway, Talbot told him, no, you're obligated to tell him. He says, but if I tell him, that'll be the end of the deal. He says, well, you know, that's the way it is. It's the end of the deal. It's the end of the deal. So he was like the final meeting before they were going to actually sign the contract. You know, these big contracts and lawyers here and lawyers there, and it's a big table. You know, trying to work all the final details. And they said, you know, at one point I have to make an announcement. I have this report here that we discovered in the sub basement, right? These faults in the sub strata. And I just have to let you know that you should know and take this into consideration in terms of the sale. So, you know, I remember a lot of discussion and this and that and everything. So, eventually they went through with the deal anyway. Because why? Because one of the buyer's lawyers told his client, he said, look, they probably found somebody who wants to buy it for more than you're willing to pay, and they want to get out of the contract, because, you know, at one point when you start dealing, it's like, you know, you haven't actually signed, but there's penalties if you back out, right? No, it's even in this, I realize that when we're looking for your real estate, if you contact, you know, if you make certain contacts, and it's almost, you almost have to go through the whole deal. Otherwise, if you don't, you have to pay contact penalties. So the lawyer told the buyer, right, the potential buyer, that look, they probably found somebody who's willing to give them more, and they're obligated now to pay you less, right? So they want to lose the money. So they're trying to fool you and tell you that they found this and that, right? So the lawyer recommended to his client that he should go through with the deal anyway, in which they did, they paid. And then months later, it was discovered that what was true was true. So here you had, by going to Derek Emes, right, the seller, listening to his Rav, he sold his building, which would have been costly to repair, and he couldn't have gotten a good buyer for it anyway. And he sold the truth, and it was their fault. They couldn't do anything about it. They said, "Look, I told you, you know, don't come complain to me. I made the announcement. You had a choice. He went through with the deal." So he was saved from all kinds of tzars, right? So we don't know what by saying the truth. There's no doubt that a person will be saved by a lot of tzars. But if a person lies, a little bit of a lie, you don't know where the tzars is going to come from. You know, it's like just learned Gemara in Sukkah that about lulav. A child, you can't give a lulav to your lulav to a child before you were yotzi with it, because the lulav has to be lechem. So on the first day, which is deraisa is lechem and the deraisa. So if you're yotzi with it and you don't have to, you know, when no other adults need the lulav, so you can give it to the child, because once you give it to the child, he's koina, he can acquire it, but he can't be matni, he can't give it to somebody else legally, right? So once he gets it, it's his, right? And you can't take it away from him in darki sholem. It's stealing from a child. It's darki sholem. Deraisa, it's not gezel deraisa, but darki sholem, because I'll say you can't steal from children because they're going to get upset and then they're going to cause trouble. So they don't steal from kids. So the question is, well, maybe we'll lie to him and say that it's, but no, the Gemara says no. If you start lying to a child, you're going to teach him that it's permissible to lie, and that'll be a very bad thing. So that's what Rabbeinu Yonah is saying. Ala emes, what keeps the world running? What keeps the world mikuyem? Not just standing in a static way. That's it's oimid. It's oimid. That's one thing. But what, according to this gear, so that keeps it going. What keeps it a continuation to the world? That's emes. Because if you have emes, you're keeping the world going. Whereas in contrast, if it's sheker, then all kinds of things start happening, and things get weak, and then who knows what can happen. In relationships, and in businesses, and in agreements, and all kinds of things. Once a person has cast doubt on his trustworthiness, so that's a very, very serious thing. People don't like to deal with people they can't trust. So, it's a shame. We'll continue with this more tomorrow about the difference between Rabbi Shimon Gamliel and Rabbi Shimon. Square feet, I think.